It's Friday, and we're live. We're not usually live on Friday. Usually we pre-record these because I don't like coming into the office on Friday.
Yeah, it's usually a good time.
What's that? What do you mean?
Coming into the office.
Oh, well, on Friday for you guys, you come in for Jack Sesh a lot, right?
Yeah, we're doing Iconoblast today also.
What's the Iconoblast on?
We're talking about a guy named Thomas Midgley Jr.
Oh, that piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's like the fucking Grim Reaper for the environment.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like the three major chemicals that pollute our environment. And I don't, this isn't from this is like chlorofluorocarbons and shit like that. CFCs.
Yeah, CFCs, tetraethyl lead, put in gas.
This guy's seriously the Grim Reaper for the environment.
I was trying to put together some sort of realistic estimate of how many deaths he caused, and it's impossible.
Well, good for him. He got stateside and non-state. He got global kills.
So he's refrigerator Hitler.
Pretty much, yeah.
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 By the way, I'm glad I came in today.
Actually, he's refrigerator Mal.
Okay.
Because Mal has got I don't think, just because of the time in history he lived, I don't think there would have been that many people available for like Genghis Khan to kill. He probably killed, like his army's probably killed a couple of million because the population density was so low.
We're talking rate stats versus counting stats.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, Mal killed all those people because he didn't like sparrows. Mainly.
Yeah.
Oh, that was part of his great leap forward.
So
Isn't that what he called it?
his Rosebud was sparrows and Hitler's was German shepherds. Mm-hmm. Like he lost his German shepherd during World War I and just lost it.
Yeah. Just went bananas.
Well,
he just thought sparrows were eating too much of the grain.
Now by sparrows, you mean poor people?
Well,
Intellectuals.
Because it sounds like driving snakes out of Ireland when it really means Protestants.
No, he actually killed sparrows, and they, had a giant locust problem because he killed all the sparrows, and then the locusts ate more grain than the sparrows ate, and then there was just mass famine.
then the poor people died.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar to, what was it, the Black Plague, where they thought that it was cats that were part of the problem,
but the cats
so they killed
were
off all the cats and just let the rats go nuts.
Yeah, this is why human beings shouldn't try to outsmart nature.
No.
Just like kind of the best decision that primates ever made was to hide in caves during the fucking the asteroid that hit off the coast of Mexico.
The chicks to something.
I don't know.
Figure out how
I think it
pronounce
starts. I don't know.
It doesn't have nearly enough vowels to be a
It's
real
on the
word.
Yucatan Peninsula. It's fine.
Yeah, it's down there. So I believe that our best solution when these things arise is just to kind of fucking hide out.
Oh, for sure.
Let everybody else get wiped out and then show back up like, oh, damn, that sucks, bro. Sorry to hear that. Thoughts and prayers to all you fucking dinosaurs that got wiped the fuck out. Don't worry, Chris Pratt's going to bring them back. All right, cool. So today we're talking about government incompetence. And, there's plenty to spread around. We're going to talk a lot about these dumbass FDA regulations that created this fucking issue. And believe me when I tell you that they didn't start, as much as I would like to say they did, they didn't start under Biden. They've been going on. This shit's been going on for a very long time.
Multiple administrations.
Yeah.
This is decades. Decades.
Like 35 or so years, I think.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid. So,
Well, for WIC, that's been around for like 30 or just over 30 years.
I thought WIC was in the 70s.
1972.
Yeah, that's 40
no,
years.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been around for a while now.
Yeah. So let's get into it. The U.S. is currently experiencing a drastic shortage in baby formula, forcing a lot of families to spend hours searching stores to find formula still in stock. Now, we've seen a lot of supply chain issues over the last 2 years because of factory shutdowns and transportation shutdowns and shit like that. So part of it is that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Surprisingly small portion of it is actually supply chain issues. The rest of it is just
just general
the
bureaucratic
moron
incompetence.
circle jerk that's going on in the government.
Yeah. As of last month, at least 43% of baby formula was out of stock at retailers across the country. Luckily, people stopped having babies, so I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, people don't know this about babies, and I learned it the easy way. You don't have to feed them.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I'd like to know more.
No, you just don't have to feed them. I mean, they need food, but you don't have to feed them.
What do you do?
Intermittent fasting for babies.
Do you just put intermittent fasting? You just put them outside and they go feral.
They figure it out. I'm sorry, you
Let
think
the dogs raise them.
you think human beings like have always had Target? No, they figure it out.
Titties.
Yeah.
Human beings have always had titties, so far as I
Yeah,
know.
they've been around for quite a while now.
Yeah, as far as I know. I can't prove it, but so there are a lot of reasons a baby may need formula, either as a result of the mother being able to breastfeed or the child having a metabolic disorder. I didn't breastfeed as a kid. I was right on the formula, like right out of the
I'm
gate.
pretty sure I did, but I never talked to my mom about it. Just seems like a weird conversation to have.
I mean, that's a good point. I think we should do some testing on this.
Some
Wait, who
testing
in the
how
office
so-
was breastfed and who wasn't?
Well, no, not necessarily that, but that would be an interesting test. Giorgio probably has been breastfed within the last 2 weeks, if I had to guess.
I actually just assumed that he nursed on a dog.
Wow.
What is he like?
Or a
He's like-
jackal.
Yeah.
He's like Romulus and Remus.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up. No, I think it would be funny to mic you up and have you go have this conversation with your mother.
There's actually a study that came out that says babies that were more dependent on formula developed GI infections more likely.
So that explains you then, right? 'Cause
Yeah, I guess I was formula.
Yeah, you should have a conversation with your mom. Be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I have no stomach problems, and I think that's because I still go around to women who are breastfeeding now.
Yeah.
And it helps with the protein too.
Yeah, I mean, if
Good teen.
you should like Giorgio just makes friends with people who have just given birth, and then comes over to hang out at their house. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get a drink, White Claw, hard as fuck seltzer, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know, breast milk, whatever you got. You can mix them. Have you ever
Strawberry shortcake
Yeah,
hard as fuck.
have you ever put? Well, I mean, I was just gonna say strawberry syrup, but sure, you can do that. Can you make a shake with fucking breast milk?
Hell yeah. What
Yeah,
you
I'm
really
sure you
want
can.
though is the colostrum.
What?
The colostrum. So women don't start. Breast milk doesn't start coming out for a couple days. What first comes out is colostrum, which is like breast milk on PCP. It's like way less of it and way more packed with nutrients and protein and
So
shit
it's like the
that.
dabs of breast milk.
Yeah. So you really want to
I'm
get
in.
in on that colostrum game.
Yeah, just make Jello shots out of it.
Yeah, and then go lift.
Yeah, I'm down with that. There's a bunch of other reasons. Mothers who have transmissible diseases like HIV or herpes or anything like that can't breastfeed without putting the baby at risk of contracting the virus, provided they don't already have it. In these situations, obtaining breast milk from a surrogate is also possible, but formula is the most readily used remedy here.
Yeah, I've never tried to source breast milk myself, but I imagine it's a little bit harder than going to Target.
It's absurd.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's just the Craigslist personal section, right?
Yeah. Now you have to make
Yeah,
sure.
I wouldn't think that they'd sell it at a retail store.
We should start. Can you sell fake breast milk on the internet?
You could sell anything on the internet.
Yeah, so let's do that.
Okay.
What are we doing here?
You just get milk.
I was selling bootleg fucking toilet paper forever.
What type of paper was it?
It's newspaper. But I've cut it in, 4-inch
on
strips
rolls?
or whatever the fuck. Yeah, put it on rolls. I perforated it. I deserve some money for my time.
Yeah, it sounds like something you could put on Etsy.
Yeah. Sorry about your buttholes, but get fucked. Babies with medical conditions, galactosemia or PKU, rely on formula due to being unable to metabolize amino acids or lactose in breast milk. I don't know. We used to throw those babies off a cliff, but I guess let's do this.
These for the Spartans for a little while.
Yeah, well, if the boy lived, they fucked him afterwards. So I'm not sure being a Spartan child is worth it at all.
It's a
to be
lose-lose
honest, yeah.
situation.
Babies with medical conditions obviously need that shit. Formula for risk of malnutrition. These infants that do require the formula are now at risk of malnutrition. We're talking about 43% of the supply is not existing right now, which is not great.
Yeah, like not that it's caught up in a truck somewhere or anything like that. It's not. It just isn't there.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
exist.
doesn't exist.
There's a number of causes for this bullshit. Obviously, the pandemic was part of it. They first became an issue when COVID lockdowns began, causing many consumers to stockpile baby formula. Manufacturers ramped up production to meet the demand, but cut back again in 2021 as families worked through their stockpiles and the demand slowed. During the lockdown, couples had little else to do at home besides bumping uglies, which resulted in a mini baby boom in early 2022 that formula manufacturers were not prepared for. This is why all of your sexual activity should be monitored by the government.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, every time before we fuck, the first thing I say is, "Hey Alexa, listen."
Yeah, and there should be the lunk alarm in Planet Fitness that goes off if you make too much noise. There should be a cream pie alarm in your home. Cream pie, cream pie. Anytime you fucking cream pie your girlfriend or wife or some stranger that you met behind a dumpster at Wendy's.
And if you don't trust the government to do this, I'll monitor all your sexual activity.
Yeah, you just need a Ring camera and to give Giorgio access to it. And he'll come through on the speaker.
That's very charitable of you, Giorgio.
Yeah, well, he's a good guy.
Someone's got to do it.
Can we just get the NBA Jam announcer to do this?
He's on fire. Ongoing shipping and supply chain issues have exacerbated the shortage as well. But the most recent contributing factor is the closure of a formula manufacturer, Abbott Nutrition, in Sturgis, Michigan. Tell us about Abbott Nutrition.
So Abbott Nutrition is a subsidiary of Abbott Laboratories, which is an Illinois-based company that produces a number of nutritional products and medical devices. Abbott Nutrition is the largest U.S. supplier of infant formula, responsible for producing Similac, Alimentum, and Elecare. And like you were just saying, they produce like 40% of the formula in the United States. Since last year, the company has been under fire due to safety issues discovered at their manufacturing plant in Sturgis, Michigan. During an inspection in September of 2021, which, by the way, if you're paying attention to the timeline, this shit's been going on for a while now. There's actually complaints about this Sturgis plant that go back to like 2020 that nobody did anything about. During an inspection in September of 2021, the FDA found violations at the Sturgis facility saying, quote, "It did not maintain a building used in the manufacture, processing, packing, or holding of infant formula in a clean and sanitary condition," which is kind of putting things lightly from what I can tell. The FDA inspection also found that personnel working directly with the formula failed to properly wash their hands or change their gloves after touching non-food contact surfaces, which also includes their buttholes, which I think is where some of the bacteria is coming from.
Nice.
On the same day that the FDA was inspecting the Sturgis plant, the Minnesota Department of Health alerted the agency that an infant had developed a Chronobacter Sakazaki infection after drinking formula produced at the facility. So this is something that I thought was interesting while I was going through all of this. I couldn't find any actual concrete evidence connecting that specific facility with these bacterial infections. Right. And when I think it was the CDC, when they looked into it, the strains of bacteria weren't related. They did find that type of bacteria in the facility, but it wasn't genetically related to the cases that the infants had contracted. In October of 2021, a former Abbott Nutrition employee filed a 34-page complaint with the FDA alleging the Sturgis facility had a litany of violations and contamination issues. According to the FDA, the complaint wasn't received last fall due to what they called, quote, "an isolated failure in the FDA's mailroom, likely due to COVID-19 staffing issues." So they just push the blame off on some poor asshole working in the mailroom.
Charlie Kelly, probably.
Yeah, he was too busy trying to track down, what was that guy's name?
Pepe Silvia.
Yeah, Pepe Silva.
Yeah.
The report wasn't received by agency officials until mid-February of this year, roughly coinciding with a recall of Abbott Nutrition's products. Since the initial report last September, 4 additional infants became sick after being fed formula products made at the Abbott plant in Sturgis. The most recent one was just included, I think, at the end of last month, so like at the end of May. Because initially all the other reports just mentioned 4 children that contracted some sort of infection. Since the initial report last September, 4 additional infants became sick after being fed formula products made at the Abbott plant in Sturgis. One infant was diagnosed with salmonella, and the other 4 developed Chronobacter sakazaki infections. Salmonella is actually very similar to this Chronobacter infection. Following the death of one of the infants, the CDC and FDA launched an investigation in February of this year, analyzing bacterial samples from 2 of the children and comparing them to samples taken from the formula plant. The CDC was unable to match the clinical samples with the samples taken from the plant and determined that the bacteria samples taken from the patients were not closely related. They were only able to get samples from 2 of the sick kids, though. They weren't given access to 2 of the other ones, and they said that impeded their investigation to a certain degree.
So there were 4 total, and the 2 tested can't be linked back to this factory.
It's, according to the report, some of this information's coming from Abbott also, because Abbott did their own investigation, but according to the CDC, they weren't genetically related to the strain that they found at the plant itself.
Maybe it was a wet market then.
Yeah. That being said, there shouldn't be a whole lot of this bacteria floating around in a plant that's producing baby formula. At least
Certainly not,
That's
yeah.
my guess.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there was fire and they looked for some smoke and happened to find more smoke, but not necessarily the smoke from that fire, right?
Yeah, the fire was the fact that this Sturgis plant was a complete shit show.
Yeah.
And people had been complaining about it for months at that point. And the FDA wasn't even the one that initiated the recall of the products. Abbott themselves did that before the FDA was even finished with their investigation. So the FDA was just kind of sitting around with their thumbs up their asses, which is primarily what they seem to do.
Well, 75% of the FDA's budget comes from drug manufacturers that are paying license fees.
So they're too busy sucking off the pharmaceutical
Taking them on
companies.
vacations and shit, actually. You can read about all this, by the way. I'm
That
not
is
making it
so
up.
fucked. The FDA and Abbott Nutrition also ran tests on environmental and product samples taken from the Sturgis plant. The product samples tested negative for bacteria, but 5 of the environmental samples were found to contain Chronobacter sakazaki. The places that they were finding it were sort of out of the way in terms of the production process, but again, that's not something that I would want floating around in a facility that's making the formula that my baby's going to be drinking.
But I mean, how sterile can you keep something? If you, what about just outside in a puddle, right? And people walk through that puddle sometimes and then wipe their feet off indoors, and that's how the bacteria got in. But the bacteria is not actually, the safeguards, there's multiple levels of safeguards in any kind of facility like that. And as long as one of them, one out of the series of probably 4 or 5 different things they have going on, takes care of the thing and it never makes it into the food product, then the system is functioning as it should.
Which it seems
Right.
like none of it actually made it into the formula. In my personal opinion, the bacterial infections that these infants got had nothing to do with the formula because they weren't able to find any direct link between the two, which makes the ultimate shutdown of the plant. And
Yeah, it seems like Abbott Nutrition probably figured out more than what the FDA has evidence to prove and shut down.
Oh, that's a good point.
Preventatively, right?
Yeah.
So they don't get sued into oblivion, and then they'll open up under another name sometime in the future. Yeah.
Shortly after the recall, a second infant died as a result of a Chronobacter sakazaki infection believed to have been caused by Abbott Nutrition baby formula. The recall affected countries across the world and forced the company to import millions of cans of formula from its facility in Ireland to help address the shortage, which I'm assuming the Irish baby formula has whiskey in it too.
Yeah, whiskey and leprechaun meat.
As part of a pre-negotiated injunction filed by the FDA, Abbott Nutrition has agreed to address the issues raised by federal inspectors in order to restart the plant. Once the FDA confirms that the initial requirements have been met, the plant will be allowed to resume production under the supervision of an independent expert who will ensure the facility remains in compliance with the law. Since the closure of the Sturgis facility, the Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General has launched an audit into how the FDA responded leading up to the recall in February. The OIG's review will determine whether the FDA upheld its duty to ensure the baby formula was safe and whether the FDA regulators followed proper protocol once the bacteria was detected inside of the plant.
Oh yeah, that's super helpful. Like
Yeah.
they'll determine whether or not the FDA fucked up, and then no action will be taken.
Yeah, the FDA is what they're going
Just
to be
for-
responsible for punishing themselves.
Yeah, just for our peace of mind to know how incompetent they are. You know
it
what I
makes
mean?
me feel a whole lot better.
It's very bizarre, but what are you gonna do?
And from what you were saying earlier, it seems like this is just them kind of passing the buck
Oh.
back and forth to see who's going to take the blame at the end. It's a game of hot potato, but at the
Sure.
end of the day, who's responsible for the death of 2 infants?
Well, probably the Irish.
yeah.
Just saying.
We do love a good dead baby. It makes for a good play.
Well, I was gonna say potatoes, but yeah.
That too. But just like an Irish mother crying over her dead infant, but you don't find out the infant's dead till the third act. And
What about a modest proposal? I mean, I think that's pretty good.
what?
Do you know the work, the short
Well,
story,
that
Modest
would've-
Proposal?
I do not
That would
know.
have prevented the potato famine.
Yeah, it's the same. So during the potato famine, this writer, the same guy that wrote Gulliver's Travels,
Was that Jonathan Swift?
Swift, yeah, he wrote. It was kind of like I guess it's a short story, but it's kind of a narrative suggestion form almost, where he tells people to have, I think, 2 kids to replace themselves, and then eat each kid after that, so that we don't run out of potatoes.
Yeah. That's the modest
Yes.
proposal that he was making.
People all want to be pragmatic until it gets shoved right in their face.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do with a third baby?
I don't know.
Fucking ignore it.
I'll let you know.
You ignore it and let it get away with everything. That's why third children suck. All of them. Anyways.
Abbott Nutrition expects to be able to resume production at their Sturgis facility sometime in June, but FDA Commissioner Robert Califf says the reopening is likely to still be weeks away. Until the Sturgis facility is able to reopen, other sources of formula will be needed, but as usual, bureaucracy is getting in the way.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, just like the safety measures in that facility or security measures at a secure facility, strength comes in layers, right? Like there's no individual thing that's going to, like you have trade-offs, right? It's just like the internet. Internet security is a trade-off between cost, throughput, or usability and security. You can't have all of them. So if you're willing to spend whatever, you can pretty much secure anything. But if you're on a budget, you have to pick and choose. You either have to pick higher level security or a higher level of throughput, like usability, bandwidth, whatever you want to call it.
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but isn't there a name for that triangle where you can choose 2 points of the triangle?
Yeah.
But the third is always going to be.
It's the same with security.
One to suffer.
It's the same. Yeah, there's always one that suffers. So access control is the one in this scenario that's going to suffer, but throughput will suffer here. But it is just like anything else. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, especially when it comes to energy, feeding kids, shit like that. Computer chips, maybe, since we've done that as well and fucked that up.
Wives. That's why I promote polygamy.
Yeah. Well, it's not the only reason, but yeah, the things like this are going to happen. Sometimes there will be outbreaks of something or downturns in the economy, force majeure, like acts of God, things that cannot be addressed by companies and governments working together or the general public working together. That's going to happen sometimes. So that's your weak link defined before the game even begins. You know what I mean? And there can't be any weak links when it comes to this. The bureaucratic side of it has to be really good. Otherwise, people fucking die. You know what I mean?
Which I can't think of any instance where the bureaucratic side of anything has been exceptionally efficient or effective.
Well, I don't know. George Bush flying around Katrina in a helicopter. Oh, you're doing a great job, Brownie. Nope.
He just cuts through the tape, man.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. So the very obvious question is, if our domestic production is fucked around, why don't we have... So even at the county level, city level sometimes as well, but county level in most states, there is something called MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding. So an unincorporated area might, for example, provide taxes back to that facilitate the neighboring counties' sheriff's department and shit like that. So they will pay county taxes even though they're unincorporated. And in exchange for that, even though they are unincorporated, the fire department and sheriff department for that county and whatever the fuck, the neighboring county will service that area. It's very typical, even at the lowest levels of government, to be like, hey, we can't do this on our own, or if something goes wrong, we won't be able to do it. Let's make a deal with somebody else that if that happens, we have a backstop, right? That's normal. Like you have a lock on your door handle, and then you have a deadbolt, right?
Are they also getting any sort of benefit from that, similar to, like, if you have a cockroach infestation and your neighbor has one also, you can get all the cockroaches out of your house, but if your neighbor doesn't clean up their house, they're just going to
right, yeah. I mean, there's always that benefit, yeah. So we're going to talk now a little bit about how badly the United States government, not Biden, not Trump, not Obama, not Bush, but every swinging dick that's been in that fucking office has completely fucked this issue up.
Yeah, on both sides of the aisle. With the largest manufacturer of formula closed down, imports would seem to be the best option for filling the void. The U.S. only imports 2% of its baby formula, primarily from Mexico, Ireland, and the Netherlands. The other 98% is produced in the U.S. by Abbott Nutrition, Mead Johnson Nutrition, Nestle USA, its subsidiary Gerber, and Perio. Perio is like the Kirkland brand of baby formula. The reason for not importing more formula is generally blamed on safety concerns, but in reality, it is a combination of regulatory and trade policies along with market monopolization. And the FDA regulations, I think, are some of the stupidest fucking things that I've ever read.
It's like misprints on labels.
It's just they don't meet like my jaw hit the fucking floor when I read this.
Yeah,
So a big thing with European formula is actually really, really popular. People sometimes get it on the low, or like if you're like my basic bougie fucking white woman of a wife, we get like a boutique brand of formula that is literally just like a copy and paste of European formula in terms of ingredients and shit like that, which is typically it's supposed to be healthier. I don't know if that's like typical, like in Europe they eat this, but like I know a lot of baby formula in the U.S. has like corn syrup and all that. Just your typical bullshit.
Does it really?
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
And
Right.
Do you
in
guys?
Europe, that's banned.
You should do a. Yeah, it is. It's been banned for a while. You guys should do a fucking softcore on corn syrup because do you guys know what it was used for before it was a human food additive?
No.
It was
Wasn't
used
it for,
to
like,
fatten
fattening
pigs.
cows? Oh, pigs.
Still is.
Yes. Yeah. The natives sometimes referred to human beings as long pig.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know it came from
In South Africa, I believe.
from natives.
Yeah. Well, not here. It's South African natives, sorry.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah, this is really stupid, so prepare yourself to hear some stupid shit.
Due to FDA regulations, most of the baby formula produced in Europe is illegal to sell in the United States. The restrictions on European formula isn't a result of safety or quality concerns, but due to simple technicalities like labeling requirements. A study conducted by a Yale professor found that European formulas generally meet FDA safety guidelines and in some cases are healthier than U.S. brands due to Europe banning the use of corn syrup and other sugars. Formula imported from Europe may be seized if it is found to have labels that aren't in compliance with FDA requirements. And from what I can tell, that's the primary reason that they're not allowing these, or the primary public reason that they're not allowing these imports is because the FDA is saying like, oh, you know, they don't have the nutrients listed in the right order, so obviously it's dangerous.
Yeah, of course. But in reality, it's because those European countries aren't paying the FDA. So when we did an American Party on this like a year and a half ago, I think, when when a drug company submits, it used to be that when a drug company submitted for approval for their drug to the FDA, that the government just incurred whatever cost it was, right, to whatever administrative cost it was to do that. Now there's like massive fees associated with it because they thought, why should the government be paying for this? Private industry should be paying. Like, oh, that sounds good in theory, but let's run that to completion. So now the people that are making these drugs are paying you to approve them. That's what you're telling me? Sweet. And it's 75% of the FDA's budget, by the way.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Pretty fucked up.
I just like that we're giving American babies like Brondo, basically.
It's got what the plants want.
Yeah.
Crave.
It's got what babies crave.
Yeah. Or could be Carl Jr. extra big ass fries as well.
I always take my kid to butt fuckers.
Yeah, butt fuckers. Oh man. Anyways.
Formula imported from Europe may be seized if it's found to have labels that aren't in compliance with the FDA requirements. Examples of FDA requirements for labeling includes listing nutrients in a specific order and including step-by-step pictures of how to prepare the formula, which also has to be in close proximity with the written instructions. Like if the pictures are just too far away from the written instructions, that could be deemed to be a violation of FDA guidelines.
So if you were to say make a super concentrated formula that came in a smaller package and you didn't have room on it to do that, then you would be in violation. So if you're trying to produce less plastic, which seems like it might be a decent idea, probably, right? Because we waste a lot of our
considering what it's doing to everybody's health with all the microplastics and
that
shit.
that and it wastes a great deal of our petroleum as well that we could be burning for fuel. Anyways, it's fucking stupid.
Last year, the FDA recalled over 70,000 units of formula manufactured in Germany for failing to meet U.S. labeling standards. The reason that these were recalled was, so I've heard some explanations saying that it was recalled because it didn't have enough iron mixed in with the formula. But from what I can tell, that's not actually true because there are some genetic conditions that are they can be passed down from generation to generation where you actually want a formula that has less iron. So what it actually was they just didn't list that it contained less than 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories. Wasn't anything to do with the safety, wasn't anything to do with the quality. It was just they didn't list that it had less than 1 milligram of iron per 100 calories. So 70,000 units got recalled. Customs and Border Patrol also seized almost 600 cases of formula last year that had been imported from the Netherlands and Germany, also due to labeling issues. In both instances, the formula was produced by Hip and Holly brands, which are widely and legally sold in Europe and around the world.
By the way, Bob, can you look up the infant mortality rate ranking for the U.S.? I just want to be clear about how much we value safety for our kids here, because it's not very high. Or at least our execution is not very good. We're in the 30s, I believe, in infant mortality rate.
Oh God, I would hope that we were doing better than that. Who's number one?
Iceland is, I believe, doing the best.
Yeah, but they don't doesn't Iceland just, if the baby's born fucked up, they just throw it off the cliff?
They just kill it.
That was one of the greatest news headlines I've ever read. It was like, Iceland has cured Down syndrome. No. I was like, no.
Yeah, in the same way that Hitler was trying to cure Down syndrome.
You could also say Iceland has legalized eugenics.
Yeah. The U.S. on this list ranks 50th, just ahead of China
50th?
and behind Antigua.
Ahead of China, though.
Yeah. We also, on this list, we rank behind Uruguay and Qatar.
For the numbers in China, are they including all the little girls that they abort?
Yeah, that shouldn't even be part of the data set, because that was on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? I'm sorry. Fuck you guys. I'm not the one that killed a bunch of babies. It was you. So, how many things of formula do you think are in one case? Probably 24 or something like that.
In one case, 600 cases.
That would be 15,000 or so. If it's 24, you would think it would be 20. How long does one unit? What?
1 tin?
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah, they come in tins.
And how big is it? Like a pint or a quart?
Like 8 ounces is what they've been shipping from. 8-ounce cans is what they've been shipping as part of the new relief effort.
And it's an 8-ounce can of powder that you mix with something, right?
With water. So mine, the typical ones you buy in the store, you see in the store, vary in size, but like the standard size one is probably like a 16-ounce tin.
Okay, and then how long does that last a baby?
2-3 days.
Oh, shit.
So you're going through, let's say, 3 a week.
Yeah.
Of those for a typical baby.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. For context, I wanted to know. That's it.
So the regulations enforced by the FDA have essentially allowed U.S. manufacturers to create a baby formula monopoly. And I think this is the real reason for a lot of these regulations being kept in place. Not the only reason, but one of the primary reasons that a lot of these regulations are still in place. Aside from the regulatory issues, tariffs on baby formula effectively limit the amount that can be imported from other countries. Imported formula is subject to tariff rate quotas of 17.5% after certain thresholds are met. What this means is that after a certain amount of formula has been imported, it becomes unprofitable to pay the tariff, so they're just not going to export anymore. Changes made to the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement during the Trump administration have also limited the amount of formula that can be imported.
Yeah.
The
Now,
agreement, which is
just to be clear, I don't have a problem with that in principle, but there has to be a backdoor in case of a situation like this, right? Where you turn that rule off.
I would think that
You know what I mean?
somebody would have thought of that at some point up until now.
Well, clearly not, because we've done very little to layer our defense against things like this.
Right. And it should be noted, by the way, that happened under the Trump administration, but in the House, only 40 people voted against that. Like the whole USMCA that
Yeah.
it was essentially, it was a bipartisan.
Yeah. Yep.
So the agreement, which is a rewrite of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, set limits on how much baby formula Canada could export, not just to the U.S., but anywhere in the world. I think this is so dumb that it's limiting exports to anywhere in the world, and the reason is even stupider. If Canada exports more than 40,480 metric tons of formula in a year, all of its formula exports become more expensive. The limit on Canadian exports was likely a jab at China due to a Chinese-based company investing $225 million in a formula manufacturing facility in Canada.
Yeah, by the way, that's not the only investment over the last, is since the middle 2010s that China's made in Canada. They also bought up the vast majority of their lithium mine reserves.
Oh, shit, that's not good.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, well, once they get a hold of Taiwan, good luck getting a hold of any sort of microchips.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they're going to have to get through so many child Indian bones to reach that lithium that I don't know how profitable it's going to be.
I actually just recently heard that story about them finding all the the indigenous children underneath that school.
yeah, it could have just been
Being
like
called into question.
I mean, it's just kind of laziness more so than evidence. Like, there's no evidence that it was serial murder or anything like that. It was probably just laziness.
Well, as far as I can tell, there's no evidence that has been made public that actually shows there are any
bones at all.
there. The
Yeah.
deep radar scans that they did.
Because they didn't dig
None of that's
anything
been
up.
made public.
It was
They-
all radar.
Is it so? It's radar scans, and then somebody just put it in MS Paint and drew like bones in
They
there.
just copied and
Pretty
pasted a
much.
bunch of little
Fuck.
skeletons.
Yeah, it's pretty sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, since I've
Not that
been,
those schools were fun.
oh no,
Like
they,
kids
they,
were still fucking horribly treated there. They just don't know. They just
Yeah.
don't think might not be bones.
yeah, they were definitely still horrible, but it seems like there might not be a whole bunch of bodies buried underneath that school in Canada. Possibly, the evidence hasn't been released.
Well, we'll see. Let's dig up that burial ground and see what happens. I mean, and digging up Indian burial grounds has caused us a lot of problems in the past.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen poltergeist.
Yeah. So, I mean, fuck Canada though. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it makes it a lot more difficult for them to import, or for us to import from Canada as well. So, like, we're cutting off. It's like if there was a river over there and we didn't like who was in it, we're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're not drinking water anymore. All right, cool, man. Shit.
that's smart.
I mean, that's a bold move. It's like Austin Powers. I too like to live dangerously. Head on 21. FDA recently announced that it would relax some of those restrictions on the import of baby formula from other countries, giving parents more alternatives to domestic brands. Hopefully that'll last. I don't imagine it will.
Absolutely
Probably
not.
as soon as the shortage is over, they're going to walk it all back.
And it's also, I don't know if you found this or if it's later in the rundown, but like, it's also not easy to become a small formula brand in the U.S. Like, they've choked out any sort of, I guess what you would call like microbrewery competitor situation. Like, it's fucking.
There's a high barrier to entry to the market. Unfortunately, this isn't going to help low-income families that are struggling the most, primarily due to something called WIC, which I'm sure most of you in the audience are familiar with.
Since I don't have any kids, I'd actually never heard of.
Did you just call everyone
WIC
poor?
before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that may be accurate, but I didn't have any kids, so I had never heard of this before. The way that Rob explained it to me was it's food stamps for babies.
More or less, yeah. But only certain things apply to it. And again, if there's choke points in bureaucracy within the federal government, and the federal government is the one giving you the money, then they can tell you it's like the company store at a mill, right?
Yeah.
It's the same stupid goddamn bullshit. This is why socialism is so fucking dumb. Because you can't give the state a monopoly on production and on violence at the same time. You should never do either, but you definitely can't do it at the same time because it inevitably becomes communism. It has to, because people get pissed off.
Yeah.
And then you have to fuck them up. Whatever.
So, ironically, part of the ongoing formula shortage can be traced back to a federal nutrition program originally meant to benefit women and children. The Special Supplement Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC, provides federal grants to states to purchase food for low-income families with children under the age of 5. And it's specifically for things like baby formula, and they also provide some funds for different classes and things like
milk
that.
and cheese and shit? Or
That
what?
I'm not sure if...
Probably like baby food purees, shit like that.
Yeah, anything that is needed for a child up to the age of 5.
I think we should just give everybody KitchenAid stand mixers and the grinder tool, because that's how my baby food was made when I was a baby, right?
I don't think I even got baby food when I was a kid. I, just like
Straight
a
to
normal
steak,
person.
yeah.
No, just breastfed up until I was like 14.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I can tell you look strong, and your hair's thick, and that's why you know.
Well, I think it's reasonable to go at least until the baby teeth are out,
Yeah.
right? So what's that, like 12 at the latest, usually?
Oh, at the late. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience raising children. That's probably a good thing, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good thing for all of us.
So the WIC is by far the largest purchaser of baby formula in the U.S., with over half of the formula in the U.S. going through the program. I think it's like 57% of baby formula is purchased by WIC.
Wait, that means over half of our population who are having kids? Like, that would... So eliminate the people who would... be affluent enough to choose some other product from that data set, right? So from the data set that's buying the formula, remove the people who are like his wife that's buying the uppity formula, or criminals who are buying shit from overseas or whatever.
Are
Like
the
me.
ones that are stealing it from CVS in San Francisco?
Well, no, that part is part of WIC, I'm sure. Like they pay for it already, probably. But
Oh, true.
That's honestly just WIC without the bureaucracy.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
to you, sirs, I salute you.
but it's
Cutting through
still
the red tape.
It's still probably north of 50% of the kids being born are being born into families that need WIC, which probably isn't a great sign for the
only
economy.
figure that I found was there are 1.2 million infants that are reliant on formula from WIC.
I mean, babies are fucking gross anyways. But
And
anyway,
they're super needy, too.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would have one.
yeah, dog pretty much take care of itself. After a couple of weeks, you're pretty much done.
Oh,
All you got to
yeah.
do is train it how to not shit and piss inside, and then you're pretty much good.
And teach it the right people to bite.
Sure, yeah.
Close to 90% of the formula used by WIC is produced by 2 manufacturers, Abbott Nutrition and Mead Johnson. And this is where the current problem is arising from. Is for 30 years, WIC has used what is called sole source contracting, which is meant to save the program money by allowing states to purchase formula far below retail prices. When a state contracts with a company, all WIC participants in that state must use the same manufacturer. Since a manufacturer is selling their formula at such a low price, they actually end up losing money in the process, but they receive free advertising in the form of their product being used in hospitals and getting more favorable shelf space at retailers. From what I was able to tell, the shelf space at retailers is the primary reason that companies will try and get these WIC contracts, is it puts it at a closer to eye level for people walking through the store.
Well, So Mead Johnson, the other one that's not shut down currently, is owned by a company called Reckitt, Reckitt. Now, if you look them up on opensecrets.org, they gave about just in the 2019 election cycle, spent $215,000 lobbying Congress.
Holy shit.
300 last year, 380,000, and so far this year, only 75. But the campaign filing reports aren't due until, let's see, the end of this month will be the next one. So we'll see how it goes up from there. But you can see exactly how these people are fucking spending their money.
That's how insane this government has become. There's an iron triangle
For baby
food.
formula. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep. Fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids.
Yeah.
This is
We should put that on the flag right here. It's our national motto. We're the richest country in the history of the fucking world, and our infant mortality rate is 50th among
that was among all countries.
among all countries. So 50th out of what, 190?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
God damn it.
Well, kids don't pay taxes, so fuck them.
Yeah, I agree with that. They don't vote either.
In 2011, the USDA's Economic Research Service found that manufacturers that received a WIC contract saw a 74% increase in their market share for that state, and that's why they're willing to lose money. It's essentially putting money into advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Abbott Nutrition currently has 49 WIC contracts, more than double the amount of Mead Johnson, which has 15 WIC contracts. So Abbott Nutrition produces... I was talking about earlier.
Ooh, man, they've already spent $900. Abbott Laboratories has spent $970,000 this year already.
This year?
So that means they spent that in the first quarter of this year because those are the reports we have.
Isn't that more than Lockheed
Combined.
Martin was?
I don't know. Yeah,
spent on
probably.
lobbying? So I think they spent like between $250,000 and $350,000.
Last year,
on lobbying
Abbott
so far.
Laboratories spent $4.33 million lobbying Congress. 2020. $4.06 million. Wow.
That is unreal. That's more than some of the defense contractors out there.
Anytime you're looking into some shady fucking corporate dealings, go to opensecrets.org and type in the company name. Actually, first find the parent company, if one exists, and then put that in, because that's how they usually spend their lobbying dollars.
I know.
By the way, they're so locked in with WIC or whatever that you need if your baby has like a certain issue and you got to use WIC, you have to get a doctor's note to properly feed your baby. You can't just, because otherwise they're like, no, bitch, buy Abbott.
Oh, that's insane.
Fuck them kids, right?
Yeah, fuck them kids. So I was talking earlier about how there's 1.2 million infants that require formula from WIC.
Yeah.
Abbott Nutrition is responsible for 47%. So that's like nearly 600,000.
Mm-hmm.
So this means that when the plant in Sturgis shut down, families receiving WIC benefits in states contracted with Abbott Nutrition were unable to use their benefits to purchase other brands. The low-income families WIC is meant to assist now find themselves unable to use their government benefits, forcing them to pay out of pocket. From anecdotal evidence that I found, that's between $150 and $500 a month that these people have to spend on formula.
Sweet.
Also, I have some context on your 1.2 million infants. Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, that's the figure that I found.
Okay. In 2020, 3.6 million babies were born in the U.S. So we're talking about a
third of the babies. Yeah.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Fuck them kids, man. I'm telling you, we should add that to the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, fuck them kids. And that'll appease the atheists as well, because they don't like under God. So what's being done about all this is interesting. I do think that despite all the bureaucratic mess so far, the Biden administration finally has kind of kicked into gear here and started to do something about this.
I was impressed by...
Yeah. I mean, they basically used the same strategy that Trump used for the vaccine, which I know is a touchy subject for a lot of people. But it was Operation Warp Speed for baby food, more or less.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, it seems to be working. It's projected that the shortage could ideally be over by, like, July. So last month, Joe Biden announced that he is taking steps to address the shortage of baby formula. The administration has invoked the Defense Production Act, which allows the government to expedite and expand the supply of materials and services from the U.S. industrial bases. The USDA is urging states to allow WIC recipients to use their benefits on a wider variety of products, so if certain sizes or types of formula are out of stock, they can use their benefits on those that are in stock. Some states have already expanded the number of brands covered by WIC benefits, one example being right here in Texas that added 75 formula options to their list. So now in Texas, there's 90 different options for using WIC benefits to get baby formula.
Is your kid on formula yet, or is it still titty milk?
He's been on formula most of the time. My wife pumped for a while. Had literally married to a cow for like 2 months.
But Giorgio kept drinking it?
Yeah, Giorgio would just show up.
Breaking
Every
into the
morning,
house.
I'm chasing Giorgio out with a broom, essentially.
He's got a milk mustache.
What's weird is he would always crawl on all fours while I chased
Well,
him out.
he's role playing.
Yeah.
At that point, he's a closet furry, I guess.
It's not for the nutrition of the milk, it's for the excitement.
Right.
Yeah,
But
thrill of the chase.
she pumped for a little while, but then she was like all formula, and she doesn't want to do it for the next kid. Like she's like formula only because breastfeeding is hilariously difficult, and she was getting really stressed about it. And I was like, dude, we have formula. Like just fucking stop. Like who cares? Why are you getting mad? Like we have all the formula right here. Stop beating yourself up over this. And she was like, I have to try.
Is it the time commitment that makes it difficult, or like performance anxiety? What?
Both. So the baby never really latched, so she would just have to pump, and that takes like fucking 30 minutes, and she can't do anything because you literally just have 2 like bottles attached to your tits, and you're just sitting there getting milked by a machine. It's the most undignified thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I can't say that that's something that I would want to go through.
No, I mean it would be the only thing I produce that's of any value is semen.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think it's a just comparison, because if something was jacking me off all the time, I wouldn't have a whole lot of complaints. Even if it was industrial, frankly. I mean,
Is that something that you're able to sell on Craigslist also? What does that go for?
well, you can give it away for free.
Yeah,
I think
true.
the market's too saturated. I don't think you can get much for that on Craigslist.
Well, I guess it depends on the juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The USDA is also asking states to relax their requirements that stores keep a certain amount of formula in stock, which will allow companies to manage inventories to meet demand. I didn't actually look into what the USDA requirements were for how much formula a store needed to keep in stock, but it's giving these retailers more freedom to distribute the formula freely.
wait, so you're saying they have to maintain a certain supply of stock, so if they got down to their last X units, they couldn't sell them?
No, it's they have to have a certain. It's like the upper limit is what's capped. They have to have
I
a
see, okay.
specific amount
Yeah.
based on the community around them, or I'm not sure exactly what the guidelines are. But now they're able to have less formula in stock if the demand isn't as high in that specific area.
Interesting. Okay.
The administration is calling on the FTC and state attorneys general to crack down on price gouging or other unfair market practices related to baby formula. There have been many documented instances of people purchasing large quantities of formula from stores and reselling them online for several times the retail price, which is like scalping for baby formula. It's
Yeah,
like what people did with the fucking PlayStation 4.
Yeah, but it wasn't just, well, they're still doing it today with PlayStation 5,
yeah.
actually. But there was one dude that was selling a bunch of shit on eBay. It was not hand sanitizer.
It was hand sanitizer.
Was it?
Yeah.
And the fucking government just took all the money he made away.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
No.
But it was pallets of the shit.
What they did was he bought it all, right? And then he was trying to price gouge by selling it.
And they just wouldn't let him sell it.
Yes. Then they just took the hand sanitizer from him and left him in that
So
debt.
did he just cover himself with it and light himself on fire?
That's probably what I would have done, yeah.
It's like Danny DeVito in that episode of It's Always Sunny.
I just want to be pure.
Pure.
Yeah, so
Let's see what else. So
Yeah.
imports from Mexico, Chile, Ireland, and the Netherlands will also be increased, along with relaxing some FDA regulations. Biden also announced Operation Fly Formula, which authorizes the use of DoD contracted commercial aircraft to transport formula from overseas. And
Was that part of the problem that we couldn't fly it over here?
I think that's just expediting everything. It's the issue wasn't transporting it over; it was the regulations preventing us from importing specific.
But
types
what does
of,
DoD contracted commercial aircraft have to do with anything? If there's not if the issue isn't the air, or maybe this stuff predominantly gets travels on freighter instead of through the air.
I would guess that's probably
Yeah,
the case.
if that's the case, that makes sense. Anyways,
and yeah, the primary issue, it's not a supply issue; it's a bureaucratic issue. It's not that there's not enough baby formula being produced in the world. It's that we have all of these regulations in place that are preventing us from getting formula from the places that are still able to produce it.
Imagine telling, like any mother, they're like, "Hey, I know your kid's hungry and shit, but this thing's not labeled right, so you can go fuck yourself."
Yeah, sorry, they put the nutrients in the wrong order, so baby's going to have to go hungry. Fuck them kids.
Yeah. I mean, we have dented can stores in America where because the outside part of the product is damaged to some degree, they sell it cheaper than normal. Mm-hmm. Why is that a thing? What the fuck does the shape of the can have to do with anything?
Yeah, the Chef Boyardee tastes the same.
Yeah.
I think it symbolizes care in the transportation, so there could be some other damages to it, or like the seal could be broken in some sort of way.
Yeah, but if the seal's broken, you are not legally allowed to sell the product.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to sell it in that situation.
Ugly
I think it's
discount?
just because people want nice things. So if it doesn't look nice, even if it's something that you're going to throw away, if it doesn't look nice in the first place,
That's true, but there's
a discount.
so there are online retailers now that they usually work locally, but I can't remember the name of the app, but they buy all of the misshapen vegetables or whatever else is wrong, might be wrong with them, like they don't look nice, and sell them to people.
Oh, really?
For it's super cheap too. So if you want to make your own baby food, you should probably find one of those locally and then get yourself a KitchenAid mixer and just make that shit on your own.
Yeah.
Just grind up fucking whatever, Xanax and apples.
I think that's
that baby will shut the fuck up.
So what was it, Casey Anthony that liked to feed her baby Xanax?
Yeah, probably. Anyways.
Last month, 1.5 million bottles of specialty infant formula were flown into the U.S. from Germany, and on June 9th, an additional 3.7 million bottles are scheduled to arrive. Another 4.6 million bottles of formula are being shipped from Australia to Pennsylvania and California, which are also expected to arrive on June 9th. So party on June 9th if you're into baby formula.
Yeah, that's what's that, Wednesday next week?
Oh yeah, that is coming up. I keep forgetting it's June already. Lastly, the FDA is allowing 54 million bottles of formula to be imported from British manufacturer Kindle NutriCare, which will be sold under the Kindamil brand.
Now, this is the most popular formula in the world, right? That one that comes from the UK? Isn't that the one that's sold more than any other one in the world or some shit? I don't remember. I feel like it was a formula from the UK that is the most popular.
I think it is. It's the UK and Australia brands of formula seem to be the most widely distributed. Not to the U.S., to the rest of the world.
5 best. These are all curated lists. Fuck these people. Goddamn Google, lying cunt. Yeah, so what we see here is, like, you can't blame the impact of, like, well, I mean, I guess we can have a discussion about who to blame for pandemic stuff, but things like that, or shitty crop yields. I mean, the force majeures, acts of God happen all the time, things that you can't control. And we know that. That's why the phrase force majeure exists in the fucking first place, and why it's in every contract that you'll ever sign in your life. But somehow we haven't figured that out at the government level, right? Like, what is... How resilient are we? That's what resiliency is. Resilience isn't the ability to prevent disaster. Resilience is the ability to maintain certain levels of functionality throughout a disaster, no matter what happens. And we are not very resilient, right? Now, this might be a lesson we learned where we set up. The lesson to learn here is that what other product or products do we primarily source from a single place or primarily source domestically that could go wrong for what reason? And what are our plans in place to deal with that within days, not weeks or months or however long this has taken now?
And with something like this, it's especially important because there's literally babies that are starving because we can't get a hold of formula. This isn't like another situation that we're probably going to be running into. We're already in the middle of to a certain degree. You know, you try to buy a truck or something like that. It's the chips that are holding everything back.
The really scary one is medicine though. Like most of the medicine that we have here in America does not get produced here.
Oh, where do we get most of our insulin?
I don't know about insulin, but we get a lot of our medicine from China.
Curious about the insulin because I've always heard that in the event of some sort of global catastrophe, it's going to be the diabetics that die first.
Well,
On the fat people.
To be fair, I mean, look, they're lucky they're here. Like they're lucky they were born in the 20th and 21st century.
That's true. They
Yeah,
were
no
born
shit.
during a period where we actually have insulin.
Yeah.
insulin manufacturers. The largest number of insulin producers were located in Asia, 15, Europe 10, Latin America 7. So that's 32 of them, and we have less than that. 32 of them globally. So we probably don't produce quite a bit here domestically. There's 3: Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi.
So it seems like overall what we need to be focusing on.
They produce 100% of the insulin supply in the United States, or close to it, which means if something if our, I don't know how that might work, but if our insulin supply domestically became compromised, do we have a plan in place for that right now where insulin gets here within a couple of days? Because it's not like these motherfuckers can intermittent fast on insulin.
Yeah.
Like they're going to start dying pretty quickly if that happens. Is there any plan in place for that at all? I would probably say no. But the plan they're using for this that seems to be working now that they finally implement it probably would work for that as well. You just have to plug and play the different pieces. Like, where can we go find insulin somewhere? Is there going to be an issue with supply chain? Do we need to get the Army or Navy to fly commercial planes over there and bring them back?
True.
Like, whatever it has to happen.
If we did it on the same time scale that the formula shortage has been
Millions of
addressed,
people
then,
would die.
Yeah, millions of people would be dead
Yeah.
by now.
How many? Let's look that up. How many people have diabetes in the U.S.? 37.3 million. What the fuck?
I can pretty much guarantee that the vast majority of them don't have a stockpile of insulin in some safe refrigerated location that they could fall back on if the supply was cut off.
No, most people live. Actually, new economic study that I saw. I think it's from 21, and it just got published. Something like a quarter of people that make $250,000 a year or more are living paycheck to paycheck now.
250,000 or more?
Yep.
Holy shit.
But yeah, there's over 30 million people that have diabetes, and it's not like things become extremely difficult if your insulin's not around. Some people will just die. Some people can't eat anything that has any kind of sugar in it, right? Because they can't metabolize it properly. So on the other side, people that are hypoglycemic, right, need that sugar. They have to eat all the time. I don't know if they take insulin or not. I don't know how. I actually don't know how any of that works. I just know
I
that.
don't think so.
I know that
it's a hyperglycemic is where
Is
you
it?
need to eat more. I think.
Well, there's diabetics in the audience here. I'm sure they can let us know about that. But the point is, there are some people. There are degrees of this shit, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like 30 whatever million people are going to die immediately, but there are quite a few of them will die within days if they don't have the proper medicine.
Absolutely.
Hypoglycemic would not take insulin; it would kill them. Yeah. So hyper, you're right.
Hyperglycemia.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't know what portion of the 30 million are hyperglycemic. Can you look that up? We're looking that up. I'm just curious, just for context, about how many people would be at risk here.
It seems like overall the lesson that we need to be learning from this is a combination of self-sufficiency and leaving some contingency plans in place in case we no longer become self-sufficient in a certain area, which it seems to be going against both sides of the aisle in terms of the government, because there's the people that are very insistent on having America produce everything here, which I think is a good thing. But if that supply gets shut down, we need to have ways to import it from an outside source, or we're going to run into the same issue again with something that.
But the difference is
dangerous.
the difference is that you can grind up fruits and make baby food, right? Or
Can you
whatever
make formula from scratch?
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I don't fucking think so.
I'm not even sure what's in that shit, to be honest.
Me either.
But there's a point, right? Like you can age out of the need for formula and relatively quickly, within months, right? Like if your baby's like 10 months old, it may start eating solid food within the next 4 to 6 months. You know what I mean? It depends on the baby. And by solid food, I mean baby food, shit like that.
Yeah.
And it may be already at that point. So that's different. There's a runway for baby formula that doesn't exist for a drug that keeps people alive, literally keeps people alive. And I don't think we have any plan for that. But this is a good model for it, right? It just has to happen so when we're planning military operations, we have something called N hour, right? So N is the time that you actually start the operation, right? And then there's N minus, which means N minus 4 would be 4 hours before the operation. N plus 4 would be 4 hours after. And you have objectives that you want to meet by each one of those hashes, right? Mm-hmm. This plan that they're exercising right now, they just have to tailor it to this particular need. Now, it may make it untenable because it is rapid. Like, I don't know how much store we have of insulin products right now. That would be part of it. If it's a lot, then it's less of a deal. But still, since what we have is produced 100% domestically for the most part, the insulin that's used here in America, that's a big problem. Unsure if there's any plan for that. I doubt it. I mean, if there's not a plan for baby food or baby formula, what's the chances there's a plan for insulin or anything else?
Thank you. There's no backup plan for feeding babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think if you don't have a backup plan for feeding the children, there's probably a whole lot of other backup plans that are forgotten about.
And this is, by the way, the only real role of government is to do this stuff. And government being what it is in its current form in America has literally prevented it. This is what I talk about all the time. No form of government scales to any level because the purpose of it is to take things like this off of our plate because, one, it's easier to handle in mass, and also it would take so much of your individual effort day to day to do something like that it makes a lot of sense to be like, hey, you guys are all doing this too? Cool, let's do it together. We'll take turns or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. But when government bloat and bureaucracy becomes such that we have to get back involved in it, then it has outlived its purpose. It's outgrown its purpose.
Yeah.
That is the best argument that you will ever hear for small government. And there's no version of a larger government that's better at any particular thing other than defense, maybe, just because of sheer numbers. So anyways, fuck the government and fuck all of you.